Thank you very much, Friedrich. We'll now take a number of questions. I'm going to start with Beth Rigby from Sky News. Beth.
Thank you, Prime Minister. Beth Rigby, Sky News. Prime Minister, on Ukraine, President Trump has signalled he's prepared to sell more weapons to allies to send to Ukraine. The Chancellor just referenced that, including Patriot missile systems. Will the UK be involved, and how much of a game changer will this be? And I need to ask you a domestic question, I'm afraid. In 1997, when 47 MPs voted against Tony Blair's welfare plans, not a single one had the whip removed. He, like you, had a massive majority, but unlike you, he just didn't feel the need to punish MPs. Why are you so rattled by this? Doesn't it look weak? And to the Chancellor, if I may, on illegal migration, you're planning to stop people smugglers using warehouses to store boats, which is very welcome. The French have agreed a trial of a one-in, one-out solution. But aren't Britain's problems being exacerbated by European Union failing to properly police its borders? And aren't you also hurting politically at home because of this? And just quickly on Ukraine, do you think President Trump... I know,
this is one question for Beth.
I know, sorry. Do you think President Trump is finally seeing President Putin for who he really is? And how much is that going to help Kyiv? Thank you so much. Thank you.
Beth, let me take your two first. On the question of Ukraine, obviously we've been working with our allies and with the US for a very long time now, but particularly intensely in recent weeks, to get to the position we're in now, where the President has made it absolutely clear that he wants Putin to move, and backing that up with capability, both military capability, as it were, but also economic as well. That is really important, and we are discussing it closely. We had a long discussion about it. Today we discuss it almost every time we meet. And we are working together on that. Last week, of course, we had the Coalition of the Willing meeting, where we had US representation there, particularly on the question of sanctions. So we are working hard with the US on this. And I think this shows the strength of Germany, France, and the UK working so closely together with other allies in Europe, but also working very closely with the US. On the domestic question, look, we were elected in to change this country for the better, and that means we've got to carry through that change, and we've got to carry through reforms, because we inherited a broken economy and broken public services. No government has inherited both of those ever before, and I'm determined that we will change this country for the better for millions of working people. And I'm not going to be deflected from that. Therefore, we had to deal with people who repeatedly break the whip, because everyone was elected as a Labour MP on the manifesto of change, and everybody needs to deliver as a Labour government. This is about what we're doing for the country, and that's why I'm so determined to press forward with the reforms and the change that we need to bring about. Thank you very much. Friedrich.
Thank you for brief questions. Have we brought enough time for today? And so I'm free. I have no other meeting today. No. Zuerst zur Ukraine. Ich bin sehr dankbar, dass Präsident Trump in den letzten Tagen erneut seine Bereitschaft gezeigt hat, der Ukraine auch mit Waffen weiter zu helfen. Wir haben in den letzten Tagen eine Verabredung getroffen, dass wir vom europäischen Kontinent und aus Europa insgesamt neue Patriot-Systeme an die Ukraine liefern und dass diese Systeme dann aus den USA heraus ersetzt werden. Denn wir müssen ja auch unsere eigene Verteidigungsfähigkeit aufrechterhalten. Ich gehe davon aus, dass in diesen Stunden darüber zwischen den Verteidigungsministern Verabredungen getroffen werden, die das dann auch entsprechend technisch möglich machen, was der amerikanische Präsident auch am letzten Wochenende erneut zugesagt hat. Zur Einwanderungspolitik. Diese deutsche Bundesregierung hat einen weiteren Kurswechsel vollzogen, nachdem auch die vorangegangene Bundesregierung bereits erste Konsequenzen aus den zu hohen Zahlen gezogen hat. Die Zahlen gehen in Deutschland deutlich zurück. Wir haben im zweiten Quartal 2025 knapp 50% weniger Asylanträge als im vergleichbaren Quartal des Vorjahres. Wir haben Grenzkontrollen verstärkt. Wir wissen allerdings, dass Grenzkontrollen nur auf Zeit ihre notwendige Wirkung haben. Wir wollen den Schengen-Raum nicht beschädigen. Wir wollen den internen Markt, also den Binnenmarkt, nicht beschädigen. Wir wollen den freien Personenverkehr, den Güterverkehr, den Warenverkehr, den Dienstleistungsverkehr aufrechterhalten. Insofern setze ich mich auch persönlich sehr stark dafür ein, dass wir zu gemeinsamen und besseren europäischen Regeln kommen. Und diese Regeln müssen die Grenzen der Europäischen Union insgesamt besser schützen. Und ich habe mit Premierminister Starmer auch über dieses Thema heute Morgen ausführlich gesprochen, dass wir hier auch mit Großbritannien eng zusammenarbeiten. Denn die Zusammenarbeit zwischen Großbritannien und Frankreich in der letzten Woche verabredet worden ist, muss ergänzt werden um eine Verabredung, die wir auch mit Großbritannien zwischen Deutschland und Frankreich gemeinsam treffen. Wir wollen die illegale Migration in ganz Europa drastisch zurückbringen. Und wir sind auf einem guten Weg, aber wir sind noch nicht am Ziel.
Beth, let me just add to that last answer, if I may, because I'm really grateful to the Chancellor for leading on this in relation to the change in German law, which is hugely important to us. As you know, we're determined to intervene at every stage of the journey that is made to bring down those that are running this vile trade. Last week, we obviously dealt with what's happening in the north of France in relation to maritime tactics and our ability to return people through the returns agreement that we agreed last week to France. But for a long time, I've been very concerned about the fact that engines in particular, but component parts of the boats that are being used are travelling through and being stored in Germany, but they can't be seized because the law didn't accommodate for a country which had left the EU and therefore needed to be amended. And I am very grateful for the Chancellor, and we've discussed this at great length on a number of occasions, is now going to change the law, introduce the necessary legislation so that we can intervene in that place. And that is the kind of leadership and cooperation that is necessary if we're going to deal with this issue. And it should be seen, as the Chancellor says, alongside the work we did with France last week. And I endorse everything that was said about the strength of the E3 relationship. Germany, France and the UK leading not just on defence and security in Europe, but on many other issues as well, most of which are reflected in the treaty that we signed this morning. Thank you very much. Can I go to Anne from Politico? Anne, please.
Hello, Anne McElvoy from Politico. Prime Minister, Herr Bundeskanzler. What difference, Prime Minister, do you think we will see in terms of the war in Ukraine from the arrangements and agreements that you've met in the last few days? There's a perception sometimes that these things are going to take years and years. If I think about something like the plan for a super Taurus, rockets and other weaponry, these are going to take years and years. And have you been putting pressure on your guest to actually deliver Taurus at the moment into the battlefields of Ukraine? And also with that in mind, before I switch over to the Bundeskanzler, what about perhaps raising pressure through economic sanctions on Russia? And is that something you've been both advocating for with the US President? Ich füge vielleicht gerade hinzu, Herr Bundeskanzler, Sie haben ja doch versprochen, Taurus zu liefern, als Sie nicht im Amt waren. Ist es noch nicht passiert?